Well, good evening, everyone. This is the Community Preservation Committee meeting. It's a Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Just to remind everyone, it is being recorded for we broadcast on LCTV. Just as a reminder. Yeah, we lost all those people.
Well done.
Yeah. I wonder if they were looking for the orchard.
That's right, they're meeting tonight too.
Yeah.
Is that down to 103?
Yes.
I walked through there and there was a meeting down there.
Is it a 103? Well, it doesn't matter.
Yes, because that's why we're here. Okay. Okay, so we have most people here. Our agenda tonight is just news and mail and input. We have two projects to talk about tonight from Amy Green and Open Space. Any other projects that came tonight? Of course, discussion on the FY25 budget. Any projects, minutes, and then the future schedule. There was no new mail. I have no news. And that's all. Anything?
I just read, Gary LaCroix, who was looking, he's working on the Neshoba Greenway, something that he's put together with a whole bunch of towns, and he said that their point person in the town of Maynard is ill and they won't be able to do this round of grants, so he won't be looking for any money. It was a small amount of money anyways.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay, the Affordable Housing Trust has written a 5-year plan or some crazy document that has what we're intending to do and budget numbers. And at the last meeting in January, there were a couple of really small edits, which I think have kept it from being officially edited or published, but that is happening, and it'll be, a copy will come to Community Preservation Committee, and we hope to continue doing business as we have in the past, in spite of FinCom. So.
Very nice. Yeah, I was wondering where you were going.
What do you mean in spite of FinCom?
We've gotten some pushback from FinCom and the select board that the Affordable Housing Trust is sitting on a relatively large bucket of money, and they don't want to make it any bigger. This FinCom is nervous about the Housing Trust having control of it's close to $1 million and scheduled to grow. They want to have the money sent to the Housing Trust when the Housing Trust has a real project that costs that much money. So I don't see the logic of that. I don't see, if we come up with a project that needs a lot of money, I don't want to wait for town meeting to get it.
But it would just stay in the housing.
I mean, it would
bucket on
stay in
CPC.
the bucket under community preservation, but then, it takes this vote and town meeting to get it over to Housing Trust. So, we can probably do something with $1 million and wait 6 months to get, another couple $100,000 or whatever our allotment is. But I would prefer just to have it build up in the Housing Trust bucket. The bucket in the treasurer's office, not the bucket here.
Where would they rather have it? Undesignated until it's...
No, it's okay to have it assigned to housing, but just not leaving community preservation.
Gotcha.
Until housing has a project.
So they'd rather have it sit in the housing bucket, but not as that pre-approved.
No, not pre-approved where they think I'm gonna, go to Venezuela or something.
Don't go there.
If I
Pick
say,
some better place.
if I say that, they'll look for me there and I can do somewhere else.
And
Um,
so this is, you know, sort of a similar situation with you, Amy, where you want some kind of pre-approved bucket to do certain things, you know, to work on,
If we have a very short-term
right?
need.
It gives you flexibility. And you'll be able to act
It
quickly.
does, if do you want to get into this now?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's related to what,
Yeah.
it's-
So the request was for $30,000 to be attributed to open space for investigative studies or whatever we might need if a property is being thought of for purchase. So if a property comes up, we would certainly need to wait for town meeting for the purchase, that piece of it. But there's a lot of stuff we need to do ahead of time, survey 21Es, getting an appraisal done. And it's frequently a bit of a scramble to get that money. Fortunately, with the Webster property, at least initially, you know, the trust stepped forward to pay for the appraisal because we didn't have the money to pay for it. So if there was this $30,000, without having to go back to town meeting again, we could use it. So I would see that, you know, that $30,000 may sit there for a couple of years and not be used, or 1 year may be used, and we'd come back and ask for it to be refilled. But that was the intent of it.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something, I know some other towns do it, and it's been in the back of my head for a while, and I figured I actually had time to get you with an application more than at the 12th hour, so.
I do have some extra copies. I don't know if anyone. This is the support fund. I got paper all over here. This is a 30,000 too. Awesome. And we need, I think, I did email this out, so Linda, you should have it. So why don't we tackle this one first?
And the only other thing I'd say that, you know, if it's coming down to a choice, the Phragmites invasive species was my priority.
Mhm.
But see where it goes.
So it would be the Conservation Commission that holds the money, not the trust.
Yes,
Correct.
yes,
So it would still be a town
it'd still be in the
entity.
town. It'll be
So,
a separate account in the town.
yeah.
how did you come up with 30,000?
I was trying to think of how much an appraisal cost or a survey or a 21E. So it wasn't anything specific because it can be very project specific, what may or may not be needed. It just seemed like a nice round number,
Okay,
frankly.
based on your experience.
Yes, yeah.
Paying for these things.
On what we've had to do for initial work for other properties
Mhm.
to come in.
So I think, does Harvard do this? Or are they trying
Harvard
to?
Doesn't at the moment. I know Acton has a similar account for land acquisition, but not so much for like for surveying 21Es.
They have two accounts. They have the usual bucket that stays within CPA, and you know, Acton gets more funds. So they try to put in $300,000 to $500,000 a year into that bucket, but that stays at CPA. And then they have a separate one like this
Mhm.
that they can use for investigative studies. Or
So could this pay for the stewardship agreement for a property or?
With a CR.
the CR, it could, although usually that's at the tail end.
Okay,
So I would expect that I would, if I needed to ask CPC for money for purchase, that would be baked in to the purchase money.
okay, because I think in the past, well, Tom McIver complains that the CRs aren't buttoned down, you know, after the acquisition and et cetera, that They sort of,
They have been.
they have,
They are, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But would they be more buttoned down if there was money available to pay for them?
I think one thing we need is to come up with some requirements for doing a CR, especially when it's with a private entity.
Mhm.
And for me, the biggest piece of that is they pay to get the bound surveyed and installed.
Mhm.
That's a requirement. And then usually the most recent ones, so Hager next door, not Jones Meadow, what was the other private one recently? The applicant is taking on the cost of doing the CR as well as the baseline documentation report. And then, town has to sign off on everything. So,
What if they don't do it?
if they don't do it, then we would have to do it. And I would say a good baseline documentation report is, again, depends on the property, maybe $10,000.
Mhm.
The survey is usually probably more expensive, $21.80. It kind of depends. And the only other thing I thought might fall into this category, because it came up recently, is the 10-acre parcel over at the reservoir that
Oh.
was split out of the lease
Hmm.
area for the orchard. I don't want to touch that right now because it's a hot button, but that'll be another example. If that is going to be subdivided out to conservation, which is what the vote was, that's like a $2,000 cost to get a survey done.
Now you would have to come, would you have to come before us and ask us, make sure that that is an eligible project? Do they have to do that? You would think they would,
It's
but
similar to the Affordable Housing Trust in
Right,
that
which they-
it would fall within that category, and I would imagine that we would report to the committee maybe on a quarterly basis if we did in fact use the money. And we could only use it for those purposes of, land
They're
ac-
spelled out, yeah.
Yeah,
so, I know. You have there's an agreement, I think, a grant agreement that we're supposed to do. So we would have an agreement with the Conservation Commission that says, you can only use it for an eligible project or whatever. I think there's a document that we're supposed to have.
we could certainly set something like that up. We would have to stay within the scope of our application for
Yeah.
funding too, so that
Yeah.
we're limited in that regard as well.
Yeah, and then like you say, report. Because we don't get the invoices. When somebody, like the trails.
Right,
I
yeah.
saw an invoice come through for Dana Gray, and I thought, well, that's probably he's building trails.
Right.
So I know that goes to the trail, trying to keep track of these projects, but we don't get that invoice to have to sign off on. We never
used to.
have.
Should that be arranged? Should that be part of the process?
I don't know. I'm not sure how. I know another town I was watching does it that way. That's what made me think of it. I thought,
Yeah.
we never do that.
No, we don't, but I mean, the housing trust just spent, I don't know, one document said 50 and one said $100 to buy a house. And we just did that.
Mm,
I mean.
Cause you have the money.
But usually the money is transferred out
yeah.
of CPC
So
into,
we did a, purchase order or something, and somebody's writing a check. It's gonna happen, but it didn't come back.
Mm,
It didn't get copied here.
no, but I suppose at that point, it's out of our hands
Yeah,
because it's your money now.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't it be that way
Why
for
wouldn't it
the Conservation Commission? I mean, I guess the attitude is if you blow it on, a conservation party or something, then, then you wouldn't get any more money.
No, I think the issue would be if you spend $30,000 to investigate and do preliminary stuff on a property, and then you go in front of the town meeting and town votes it down, then, there's $30,000 of sunk costs.
that is
And-
always the risk.
That is a risk.
That's
And I
always
think
a
that's, I mean.
It was a risk for the Webster parcel.
Yeah,
That $7,000, whatever it was for the appraisal, is sunk cost.
okay.
But you gotta, I don't know, put up or shut up in some of these, you
I mean,
gotta spend
you
money
can't move it forward
until you do the investigations.
You have to do this,
Yeah.
some small money, and if you don't get the big money.
So the reason I asked about the amount is because, so we're a town meeting and we want this, we need to enumerate, all the things that this could be used for, that
Mhm.
these things can, based on your experience, can cost this much. I mean, we have to just, I'm an easy sell, but it's like town meeting has to.
They'll come at all different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now.
And
And again, it depends, you could have two properties in a row and the money's gone, or you could have
Right.
nothing for the next 3 years.
Right.
And it'll stay there.
Right.
Yeah, it'll,
So I think it's better to be
Yeah.
prepared
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
put you in a better position for.
And probably doesn't do any good, but I'd be very tight with this money, so.
Mm.
If I can still get the trust to pay for something, I will.
Linda, did you have any questions for Amy on this one?
No, I don't think I do. I guess my thought is since we already do it for the housing trust, this would be the same thing on a smaller scale, so. Yeah,
And I guess that's the question we have to be ready for is when FinCom says, I don't know if the dollar amount will matter or if it's gonna be the mechanism,
Yeah, I think FinCom was nervous because we didn't have any documents saying what we
Yeah.
were trying to do and what our plans were. And what, our goals are. So now that we have a 30-page document that says what our goals are and what the,
Mm,
we can't project expenses, but, there's a page in there that looks like it. They may back off a little bit.
yeah, that's
So-
true. I think they just didn't know, so they,
Well, they were approaching it like a corporation where we have a capital budget, blah, 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 and the problem with conservation and to some degree affordable housing, you can't organize the opportunities necessarily on a timeline. You can pretend to, like what you guys have done, but you couldn't come up with.
Yeah.
You might have some gigantic opportunity or not, so.
Yeah, and for better or worse, it is frequently reactive. It can only be so proactive, and proactive can take 20 years too.
Could you use the money to throw parties for landowners too?
Sway them.
I'm not Silbury Valley trustees. But I could also, and it might be a good idea, just so it's on there, is add to this list, the conservation restrictions and baseline documentation reports, so it's on there as a
yeah,
possibility.
I think that would.
Like I said, those usually tail end things, but
Mhm.
if we have it, because otherwise, if we're going after property, we need to do anything, we're going and trying to hit whatever there is in the general fund,
Mm,
if we don't have time to wait around.
mhm. And money's gonna be tighter this year, I think, so.
Yeah.
There'll be much free stuff hanging around. I have, and again, I'm trying to get together with the accounting office. I tried to do a running balance. I think there's about maybe 788,000 in open space and like 455 in undesignated. So in the scheme of thing, I mean,
That's not a lot, actually,
no, it's depends.
given land prices.
Given, oh yeah, for open space
Yeah.
project, it doesn't
Yeah.
help us at all.
But what I think the FinCom has talked about is thinking of these amounts as bonding potential.
Mhm.
So which does dramatically increase,
Right.
their utility.
The reach, yeah.
Right, how far this will go.
I mean, assuming that money keeps on coming in.
Right. Yeah, so it's either you kind of spend it all up front, or you have to acknowledge that that's coming out of your budget for the
Yeah,
next
and
10,
that-
20, 30 years
Right, and
to pay for the
right.
bond.
I mean, I guess. I think I feel okay because other towns do it, we can say that, it has been done,
Yeah.
and we do it for Affordable Housing Trust, so. I guess I feel a little bit better about it now. I wasn't quite sure, just worried about, but I know that.
And I mean, it's a best guess, I can put some ranges on some of these. Again, to be
I
so
would-
project specific,
I might-
it's tough.
At
Yeah.
least,
They're gonna be big ranges.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I would at least marshal like recent examples.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Type things. But don't use controversial examples like Weber.
Yeah, and if we come up with like some kinds of examples, don't make it too specific. You don't, including and possibly other than, you don't wanna.
So like in the
limit
last
yourself.
5 years, these have been
Yeah,
what we've had to
yes.
expend
Yeah,
quickly
cause I think it's
to get a
good
project into a grant or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Cause I think it's good to have, cause like someone said, they're gonna ask, but I don't wanna limit you to only being able to, if something weird comes up, that
That's why it says other.
other. And other tasks as required, as they said. Is everyone comfortable with voting on this tonight, or do we, I don't think there's many more questions, but. So we have the eligibility request and the request for funding. So I think we've determined that it is eligible.
We need to, I'll make a motion to make it eligible.
Second,
This is for the eligibility request for the Land Acquisition and Preservation Support Fund for 30,000. Like, I'll do roll call since we have Linda, remote. Bartlett,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Andrew,
yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn is a yes, and Linda.
Yes,
Okay, great, thank you. And then the application for funding.
I make this,
Yeah.
another motion to
Yeah.
approve the application for funding for the Land Acquisition and Preservation Support Fund.
And would you want to, in that motion, add the possibility of a conservation restriction or baseline documentation report as something else that could be expended
Sure.
on? I don't know how. Because that's not written in the application.
Oh, yeah, or do we
So,
want to wait till February, add that in and
I mean,
for pending addition of,
we could say we approve it along with, how could we word this? Associated, closing? No, we don't want to jump too far ahead because this is supposed to be before the
Yeah.
purchase. Why don't we? We could probably leave it as is for now, and then
I think it comes under other.
yeah,
yeah,
And I'd also say if it comes to it, if I need to come back and, but what are these good for? 3 years? If, we need to come back, money, we can see how this works and get more specific or add some stuff in if we need to.
and that could also
That's
be
fine.
verbal at town meeting if somebody says, what's the other thing,
Yeah.
we
An example.
could give an example. All right, then I'm okay with that. Is
Sure.
everybody okay with that?
Yes.
second.
Second thing. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the application for funding for the Land Acquisition and Preservation Support Fund. Bartlett,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn's a yes, and Linda.
yes.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. One down. And we got the big one.
Less money, just more paper.
Yeah, that's true.
So of course, the first question is Phragmites?
Phragmites.
Phragmites?
That's my new favorite word. I like
Okay.
that word.
Could you say why they need to be controlled?
I would love to. So this is a project for, specifically over at Cloverdale. And Phragmites, which you've probably seen around, is that very tall reed
Hmm.
looking grass that just takes over.
Yeah.
Where it's growing right now. And when I first started here 10 years ago, in my mind, there wasn't too much at Cloverdale. And I've always kind of looked at it and said, should take care of that and just never been able to. And the more it expands, it's a geometric progression. It blocks out the sun, so nothing's growing underneath it. It forms a dense mat. It's hard for a human to walk through. It seems almost impossible for wildlife to walk through. And it clogs up the waterways and the drainage that's going through there. Nothing eats it. Birds might use it to hide in or maybe build a nest in, but you know, they're not eating it. So the best thing to do is to try to get rid of it before it takes over the entire marsh of Cloverdale.
So without the Phragmites, what is there? Is it open water or?
It would be basically a wet meadow emergent marsh. Are you familiar with the boardwalk out
Mhm.
there at Cloverdale?
Yeah.
So that it would be what that's mostly going through is what it would return to.
I mean, I see them in these swales that they've created at certain construction projects to recharge the groundwater, and then they end up just growing these things. But Light and Water has that,
Yes, they do.
and it's not attractive, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it is a fire hazard. I mean, I used to do a bunch of work in New Jersey, and you could tell when school left out because the Phragmites would go on fire. It was
Wow.
pretty interesting. I said, "What's the fire?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, you know, the school's out. The kids are
Letting it Phragmites.
doing a little invasive species control."
Ah,
30 years ago.
So what do they do?
So for the they're doing this right now at Browns Woods. But that had been part of the grant that we got from the state for Browns Woods. And this is a 3-year program. They go in and cut it down mostly by hand, or you know, with handheld equipment, not mowers. So they can get into it, and then they treat it with probably a glyphosate type herbicide twice a year for the 3 years. And the first year is the expensive year, and then it gets relatively cheaper as they go.
So this is sort of like the Japanese knotweed control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same kind of idea.
Is it more effective?
It is more effective. Yes.
Japanese
knotweed. Yeah,
It's like a 10-year plan.
it's impossible. But you know, their goal is 90%, or actually more than 90% control by the end of the 3rd year.
So that's why they call it control. You don't call it getting rid of.
You're not going to eradicate it.
Okay.
Yeah. But you beat it back and you keep it beaten back, basically.
And so of all the Phragmites in town, you think Cloverdale is the most dire need?
Yeah, I mean, there's some I'm training in some areas which are kind of a lost cause. So I wouldn't bother. But I think Cloverdale, what is the majority of Cloverdale, especially the emergent marsh area that's left, is very high value.
Mhm.
It's a wildlife corridor for a long way, and if it's lost, it's lost. So it's not only wildlife, but it's going to take over the boardwalk. You're going to be walking through, and all you're going to see is the Phragmites over your head.
And since you have the total project cost and then the funding requested, and it's less, what is making up the rest of the?
I am hoping that they gave us eight tasks altogether. The assessment was done under a Sudbury Valley Trustees for a 6-month grant. The permitting is done, and we didn't need any of the support. The prep cut needs to take, if I can get this going, needs to take place this fiscal year. So I have about $5,000 I can put at it under my regular budget, and I'm going to Light and Water, I think next week, one of their community grants, to see if they'd be willing to do the other half of that, basically.
Okay, so
So that's
partly
that's the
it's money
difference.
you have, and then okay.
What's the root structure like? I mean, is it like?
It can go like 6 feet deep. It's pretty deep,
Oh,
which is why you
You
need
can't
more than
just
1
pull it
year,
out.
and you
Yeah.
cannot pull it out. Yeah.
you can't scoop it out of there.
And I mean, the water department's dealing with this over 242 King. That was a Phragmites basin
Oh.
that 495 had built, and they want to redo it. I said, you can redo it, but if you start excavating, it's going to get really expensive because you almost have to treat it like hazardous waste.
Yeah.
The rhizomes, you treat it in place and kill it. And
Yeah.
fortunately for the water department, they're going up. They're not in that area, not going down.
So do they plant it for a reason in some places
Um,
for control or?
I think it came into the country as packing material.
Oh,
Or a lot of times that's how it comes in.
interesting.
I think some people, especially when it's on a steep slope, say if you get rid of Phragmites and that slope's exposed.
Oh, okay.
It's funny, I always associated it with wetland, but you can grow on the slope
Yeah.
or, oh, wow.
And how does it spread? By seed or by rhizome?
I mean, but I see it's almost all by rhizome and it's fast.
You see it on Air Road, on the left, if you're going toward there on the left,
Yeah.
you know, if you're looking over at the very fine plant. And you wonder if eventually it's just gonna, Yeah,
There's a
Susan
patch
Road.
on, Tehadawon, Harwood, I can never remember
Harwood,
which is
yeah.
across so much. And it's on the housing side, but it's not into Tehadawon Meadow yet, because it's gotta go into the road. It's gonna go into the road.
wow.
The other patch I would love to tackle is in, Long Lake, but it's on private property.
Well, one of the things I had later, the Clean Lakes Committee is supposed to maybe come before us to do some Phragmites control, and I can't remember which lake they were talking about.
I think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think they're talking about the aquatic invasives, like the
Oh.
water chestnut, the stuff that's really in the water column.
Oh, okay.
Not so much the Phragmite. I think they used an example
Oh, okay.
that CPC had paid for.
Okay.
I have a question. The herbicide that they're recommending to use, how does that affect both other plant life and wildlife in terms of being an herbicide?
Yeah, it's specifically designed to interrupt, it's been a little while since I've gone through this, the proteins that are in the plant. So it's not animal proteins it's attacking, it's vegetation proteins that it's attacking. And they're using backpack sprayers. So this isn't like an aerial spray, it's not an agricultural use, it's very low key. And they have nozzle coming out of their backpack and they will apply it throughout. And especially at the borders where the Phragmites might be a little intertwined with native, they might use a glove that's soaked in the Phragmites to just wipe it. So that the native plant isn't hit. It's very target specific. If the wind's more than, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 miles an hour, I can't bet, they won't be applying it. So it stays.
That's very helpful. Thanks.
If you really want to know, I have a binder about 3 inches thick. So,
If you want no more than that, talk to SVT.
yes,
Mm.
yes. They did a lot of research. And this is what, from Fish and Wildlife Service down to the local land trust use this, it's almost never anyone's first stop. They want to try to do it mechanically if they can. But with Phragmites and Japanese knotweed, some of these things, if you're going to try to get it out, you need to get aggressive.
I have no more questions. I'm really gratified that I learned the pronunciation and learned about that tonight.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something like about 242 King Street. You said, oh, it's a Phragmites. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I went and looked it up, and now that's all I've heard is that,
And when you start driving around, that's all you'll see.
they'll see it.
Once you get an eye for it.
But there is a slight defining line. Bulrushes will grow in wetter areas than Phragmites,
Yes.
but the Phragmites comes right to the very edge.
Yeah, it won't go in really deep water. It'll be thin in deep water. But it will, especially, landfills, recently disturbed soils, it'll go right up the slope.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the Cloverdale Phragmites control project.
I'll second it.
Oh, sorry, approve the eligibility first.
The eligibility, well, I'll second that.
Bartlett,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes,
Andrew.
Yes.
Sam,
Yes,
Carolyn is a yes, and Linda.
Yes.
Yes. Diana,
Anna.
we're doing our conservation projects right now. So that was the eligibility request. And I assume we want to take these from open space. I mean, the two of them are, you know, what, like $60,000?
That's the option.
I mean, well, we could take it from undesignated, but I like to take them out of the buckets.
Second,
Yeah.
stir.
This is the community preservation. We should do how it should be, so. We wanna vote in this one?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the Cloverdale Phragmites Control Project with funding to be used from the open space buckets.
Second,
Ooh, I got a cross. What's up, Bartlett,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Sam,
yes.
and Carolyn is a yes, and Linda?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
So,
I don't know if you wanted these or not, because these forms are driving me insane and they all said like Keith Bergman on it.
yeah,
I redid them and IT actually made them as so they are fillable forms.
okay, I'll put them on our website.
So what you might want to take a look at them
Okay.
and make sure I didn't miss anything. The other thing I don't like in terms of fillable form is this piece of it.
Oh,
Because that's what
Yeah.
it was fill. So I might mess around with Nancy to portray this a little bit better, so it's easier for them to, they don't have to draw a circle.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
yeah,
I have copies if you want to look at them
yeah.
or not.
Yeah,
There's a bunch, so you can take one of each, so.
Thank you.
yes, Amy was nice enough to do that for us.
I pointed out it's self-serving. so.
Yeah. Well, when they transferred to the new website, we lost it. Anyways, I couldn't
Which might have
even-
been just as well.
Yeah, I couldn't even find it. I thought, geez, I must have one somewhere, and I
Do you
didn't.
have
So
one?
that'll be good to get that out.
No, yeah, this is one, well, I don't know what it is. There's two different forms. As you know better than I do.
eligibility. and-
An application for funding.
All right. Anna, are you
Thank you.
just here for the budget discussion, or are you here for something specific, or just to listen in?
Hi, everyone. I was actually hoping to be able to, in looking at your agenda, it says other projects brought before the committee. I just wanted to say that the Affordable Housing Trust finished its action plan, and we'll get that produced and emailed to the other committees, including yours. And I was wondering, for your next meeting in February, if I could be on the agenda to discuss that action plan and also a potential agreement between the two committees for the funding that goes to affordable housing.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it'll be the third Wednesday in February, which I think is the 21st.
Hold on just a second.
I think Valentine's Day is
Oh,
on
the
Wednesday.
14th. Let's see.
the
Yep, the 21st.
21st. Okay, we will put you
Oh.
on. the agenda. You can't make it that night.
No, I can't make it that night. Okay. Well, Bartlett is there, right? Perhaps Bartlett would like to talk about it, or we can wait to visit you at a later time.
Well, I did
You mentioned
sort
a
of
little
mention
bit.
it. I didn't say that you wanted to be on the agenda. I just said that the plan was in the works and it was gonna show up eventually. Like,
Okay,
So what would you like to do, Bartlett? Do you want to fly solo on that one, or do you want to wait till the March meeting?
is that something you'll be asking for money for, or is it just a,
No, it's more to formalize the relationship than anything else. So that's why I think it's okay to
Yeah.
wait.
let's see,
it would be March 20th would be our March meeting, unless we end up meeting sooner because the warrant closes around then. I had that written down somewhere.
Yes, March 20th, and I can put it in my calendar now.
Okay, let's do that then.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and as always, everything that CPC does. So thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, and I'll talk to you in the meanwhile.
Okay, that sounds terrific. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right,
Thank you.
good night, Anna.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, other projects, let's see. Oh, you already mentioned
It's not gonna come.
the trail signs not
Yeah.
coming till, not in the spring. And I had mentioned Clean Lakes, I think is gonna come next month, with, well, no, I'm not sure exactly what their project is, but some kind of invasive controls, and I'm not sure which lake it is, or if it's just for all of the lakes. But I guess they had approached the town for funding, and of course they said, oh, CPC. So
Wow.
Yeah, we're on the radar now.
we are now, yes, so I guess that's okay, because actually, what do we have? I thought Jerry might be here tonight too. They had some projects that went through the capital plan. That they mentioned. That they mentioned would be, there were two park and rec ones. There was, the resurfacing of the basketball courts at 300 King Street. I think that was about 57,000. And then there was one for, it just said new field creation. And I think they had put like 250,000 in there. I don't know if those are
Or in the capital.
in the capital
Yeah.
plan. So whether those are long-term projects. Oh, here it is right here.
I feel like we just put those basketball
Yeah,
courts in
those are
like
brand new.
No, that's what I was thinking too. But they do get a lot of use.
they do.
And I still don't
Are they wearing golf
understand
shoes?
what happened with the tennis courts. Like, why didn't we fund that? Or did we fund
We
that?
did,
Okay,
yeah.
We just didn't do the lighting portion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so they have the basketball courts going in fiscal year 25, so that would be next year. And new field creation, it looks like they have 250,000 this year and 2,500,000 next year.
Oh, wow.
So the 250 is probably for engineering,
And, you know,
design,
yes, and I think determining where,
right?
like where. it
I
would
think
be.
there is a study. I mean, Saul isn't here, but
Mm.
I mean, it's been talked about.
Yeah. So that's probably what that is. So I'm assuming they will come before us next.
So they
month.
want the construction from the CPC.
Yeah, they were told to. And then coming up the next year, it says Fay Park renovations. And they've got 150,000 in fiscal year 26 and 1,500,000 in fiscal year 27.
What, do you think we have a printing press?
I know.
Uh,
Ambitious.
So those by the finance committee have been assigned to CPA. And then for cemetery, they had put gravestone preservation. They had just kind of strung that out, so. But that's a little,
Is that the old Barren Ground? Or?
The old section of Westlawn.
Oh, really?
but we might bounce back. I mean, we could bounce back to the old burying ground too. So those are things that I guess we'll have to watch for.
Can I add to the list?
Yes,
I think we should, I think I've talked about this before, but I think we'll put in an application for historic markers around town. Several of them are not in good shape and they need, either just the signs need replacing, and at least one of them needs maybe the granite or whatever replaced as well. And Andrew Smarco and I should work on that. When would we need to put in the application for that to CPC?
I know, and I can't remember when the warrant's gonna close. Does anybody know?
I think it's mid-March.
It's-
Yeah, mid-March.
But it's a little bit later because town meeting's done till like the 7th or something like that. So I want to say it's like the 18th or something. So we'd have the meeting in February, the 21st, and then we could always have another. I mean, we've done that sometimes. It's just so hard to get us all together that we, kind of nice to maybe get it from February rather.
Yep.
we could shoot for that. Markers are very pricey these days. That beautiful one on Harwood Avenue for the quarantine station that we put in a few years ago was $900. Granite sign included, installation, everything. And now you can't even get a sign for $500. It's insane.
It's too bad, and they are deteriorating, and the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War is in 2025, so we're trying to get spruced up a little bit, especially around some of those markers that might have something to do with that, so. All
Well,
right.
thank you for taking care of the markers.
Oh, no problem.
I've never really, I think the only one that I see is the Mary Shepherd one at the end of Powers.
Oh, near Greg's house?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one we just put on the list, because that one's getting kind of,
yeah.
There's one at Parley Lumber.
Yeah, that one's in
That's
really
a-
rough. I don't even think it's there anymore, actually.
I think I saw it recently.
I think it's kind of like
Like on the
falling
ground.
down, yeah. But we're trying to get the one at Meeting House Road, which you can't read, the Lawrence Tavern on Crane Road. It's just a marker with a blank sign. I mean, they're really, but like Andrew said, trying to get someone to do them has not been easy.
That's the thing. They're very expensive, and it's very hard to get somebody to actually say, okay, I can do that for you. Like hearing back from them is crazy.
Can you go to Etsy and
Probably
I've been looking
could.
into it. I've been looking into it.
Yeah.
I know we try to keep local, but we might not be able to. All right, so there's a couple things we'll be looking forward to. So that's the budget discussion. I did reach out to Steve Venuti because he wanted us to be more involved with the planning, but he said he'd call on us when we were needed, and I haven't heard anything, so I guess I think by putting that, they had a list together, and I think they kind of assigned themselves. So I don't know. I haven't heard like on Super Saturday if we're supposed to make a presentation. I think I'm gonna
Oh
try
yeah.
to get ready, but have we heard, has anyone heard?
What is Super Saturday?
So I was actually just looking at the list before walking in here tonight.
Oh.
It's
Let's see.
Saturday when all the entities that suck up money in town get together with FinCom and they beat each other up.
Present their keys.
Which Saturday is that?
The first Saturday in February, is it the second?
It's so there's a couple. There's Saturday. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. So they're doing meetings on Tuesday the 16th, which was yesterday, and that was with
That got
What was
canceled.
canceled that meeting?
Yeah,
that was
because of the snow.
canceled. So let me see. I think yeah, I don't see us actually on this list because the actual Saturday is February 3rd. There's land use, Board of Health, cemetery, police, fire, DPW, and I don't really see. Yeah, I don't see us listed anywhere or historical. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I lied. So the meeting for historical, like Linda said, was actually last night, but it got canceled. And they list Disability Commission, Memorial Day, Patriots Day. Okay, no. So I don't see CPC listed anywhere though.
But not on that Saturday.
No.
Interesting.
You get a call Saturday morning.
Yeah, where are
Yeah.
you?
Where are
You weren't
you?
on the list? Maybe I should be
Well, is
proactive.
CPC a line item that the selectmen choose?
No,
Or is it,
but
it's a fixed number based on the tax rate?
yeah,
Right,
that's
isn't
true.
it?
Well, other than,
I mean, the
you know,
state-
we made the case for the 2%. and
Yeah.
3%, and that's been adjudicated, I guess, so.
They had us make a presentation last year, but maybe it was because of that.
Mm.
They've got bigger fish to fry right now, I think. Yeah, maybe that's why. Yeah, you're right, because we're not really a budget. They don't have to give us any money. Well, they have to
Well, they
give us
have to,
money, but they don't.
have any
No
control.
general fund money.
It's not.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. That actually makes me feel better. But we do need to be prepared to do our allocation. Of the 1% surcharge, we have to give the allocation. And for the state match, they always want to do the estimate in May for what we will get in November. The one thing I'm trying to get the balances together. I'm trying to figure out how they do the accounting. Yeah, and I can understand why it would be confusing, especially because there's been so much turnover, but I really would like to, I got some answers for some questions. But what I want to know is when they, like if it were me and the taxes were coming in, I don't know when they allocate that out. You know, because they've got to put it in
When they
the
put it in the
different
CP,
buckets.
when they put it in the CPC hands.
Yeah. I don't know if they dump it into a general fund and then, like, it looks like they saw that we had voted in $24,801 in historic projects last year. So there's an entry for that money coming in, but there should be more coming
That's
into
just,
historic.
but is that what is going out?
This was revenue. This was a revenue entry coming in. So I might be double counting it because I have like a 1% surcharge line that now shows 203,000. Yeah, I've got another 24 because there's an actual entry, you know, when you go into the open finance thing. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't get that.
I don't know how
I
to do
mean,
it.
revenue, it's money that theoretically we get.
right, and we should get that. And then like when the state match comes in, they should allocate that how, because we do a different
Whatever the
allocation for
allocation
that,
is.
how we have decided to allocate it. And I don't know how they figure that out. And they're always so busy, but maybe I can try to sit down with Robin, I think it is. So like when I gave that 788,000 for the open space, that might be that. It could be less. I'm not really sure, but we've never really been able to call up and say, what's the balance in the open
I
space
don't
budget?
understand that. Why haven't,
Because nobody knows what they're doing.
I
There's so much turnover
guess
down
so. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's just a lot of money. It seems like it should just be boop, boop, boop and,
Right.
you know. Well, I may have mentioned this anecdote, but my wife was head of the cultural commission for a while, and they just, you know, had like $3,000 or $5,000 a year. She could not get through the accounting department. She said, I don't understand. And she, you know, she was just completely, and she's very adept at handling big budgets and this and that. Well, that was when Bonnie was here,
No.
you know, and so, I mean, at some point, it should be managed.
Yeah. And I know
It's
they
easy
have
for me to say.
I know that's how I feel too. I feel bad for them because they're, you know, like the turnover and trying to get into all these, and every town does it differently, I'm sure, but I'm gonna try to get there. Why were we talking about that?
But you would think the 1% amount is a hard figure.
Right.
Right.
But it does trickle in, so I don't know.
Okay,
And I
by
could see like
quarter?
if they, yeah, I could see if they put it in and then allocate it at the end. But I'm hoping that they do that.
So maybe the $24,000 was that period's, you know, 1% bucket.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was expecting $36,676 to come in because of the 1% surcharge. So I don't know if that 24,801 is an addition to or part of that 36. So I may be double counting this, but I need to.
I mean, Carolyn, it's a tough situation, but you have to tell them, we make decisions about spending, and if we don't know what the, you know.
Well, we keep getting asked, how much do you have? So I'd like to be able to tell
No,
them.
but they should tell you.
Yeah, true. So I'll keep working on that so we can try to get something.
Maybe you go to the new town manager and say, this isn't working.
We'll actually have an appointment with them on Monday.
Great, okay.
So we'll see if, and I know that, you know, people, they don't want people running into, you know, the accounting offices all the time, but maybe I can sit down with them.
Just say, you know, it's a priority to set something up. We need to, you know, get our hands on this. And
now that I have it a little bit organized too, so I can have them show something to them. Okay. So I don't know if we're comfortable voting tonight when Saul's not here and Mitt's not here, but I mean,
Maybe we could hold off until
we'll hold off
February.
to February. Now, I don't know if, and our finance person's not here either. We typically do the same thing year
Mhm,
after year,
right.
you know,
Is there-
about the same
Is there any
percentage.
discussion about changing anything? Or does anybody want to change anything?
I've had a few, yeah, I've had a few people think that we should put most of it into undesignated and not the buckets. If you ask my opinion, I prefer to budget it out.
Yeah, like,
I get it, but
So the other thing to consider is they have grand plans for the CPC money for the recreation. Maybe we need to increase that bucket.
that would,
I
I
mean,
mean, I think that's what we're supposed to kind of do is manage, you know, so yeah, we know that they've got millions of dollars.
Marshall doesn't support that.
But we also want to protect all the other buckets as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I do think we should put a significant amount in undesignated as we've started to do, but we also want to make sure all the other buckets are covered.
and that's the thing too, because in other towns where they throw it all in undesignated, then everybody's constantly fighting for the money and you're really uncertain if your project will actually come to fruition if you apply for it. Whereas right now, if Park and Rec wants something, at least we know that money is dedicated to that particular use. But if we were all fighting for the same money, it would just be an all-out free for all for the money.
Yeah. It's interesting, there's some towns that do it that way. Like they'll say, oh, you have, because you have to put at least 10% by law, you have to put 10% in each of the categories. And that doesn't include recreation, by the law. And some towns will say, okay, you have a project for $9,950 for historic. And that represents, you know, only part of the 10%. So we'll put the 10% in, but no more. But if you had one that was like, say, 18,000 and that was over the 10%, they would just put that 18,000 in for you to expend immediately. But that to me seems like, I mean, talk about an accounting nightmare.
Yeah.
And then, and with that too, I was thinking afterwards is you would have to know what all your projects are before you do your allocation. Because you know how we are, you know, 2 days before town meeting, oh yeah, we'll meet and we'll put your project through. And then we'd have to reallocate stuff. So I'm not really sold on that.
I think what we have works for us, and I don't see any reason to change it right now.
I thought I'd mention it because it was mentioned to me, so. Yeah, I kind of wish Saul was here to talk about the recreation part. So maybe we hold off and,
Yeah, recreation sounds like they're blossoming. I mean, it's not new.
Well, they're gonna try to take over the town.
and FinCom's gonna push them towards us, or the town, and the select
Right,
board.
because
are
they
gonna push them
don't
toward
want
us.
to have a line item in the
Right.
town budget. They want us to carry it. I don't think that's right.
No, it shouldn't be depleting the CPA monies. I mean, bonding things out against future revenues is one thing, but
Yeah.
depleting, having all the money put towards one particular project like that.
I mean, recreation should be a town function, and it's not, I mean, affordable housing is not a town function. Or open space. I mean, there's no town, I don't think any town has a line item for open space in their annual budget.
Acton might,
They might,
Mm,
but they're
Right.
weird.
got a feeling they do, but
mm.
So they have an amount that they have to spend every year on open space or,
Or
well, I
the
don't
bank,
think
right?
spend,
yeah.
but they support open space strongly. I think there's some
Yeah,
town support other than
okay,
CPC.
okay, in addition to CPC.
Yeah, so I'll send you the, what we did last year, because I think we did our normal, like, 40% to open space and then 20, 18
Yeah.
and two. And administrative, we don't really spend a lot. We could probably get down to 1%.
Yeah.
Cause I don't think you have to do 10.
I think we do need, some percentage in undesignated just because,
Well, what we've done the last 2 years, I think, is when the state match, we put the bulk of that
Oh,
into,
okay.
because we figured that's kind of like, extra money. So we put, I think it was like 35% in undesignated to try to build that up.
okay.
But, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask accounting is like, there was a whole bunch of little stuff that comes in, like earnings on investments, because that money's in the trust fund. That was like 71,000 last year. And then like penalties and interest, like back taxes that come in, that's all like little piddly stuff. And do they put that in the undesignated bucket? So that bucket does kind of accumulate a bit. They're supposed to put the administrative funds that are left over into undesignated. That gets washed out every year. So that does,
So there's,
build up
there's,
a little
there's some
bit.
income going into
Yeah.
that.
And I know FinCom was kind of toying with the idea of taking other monies and putting them in the buckets to get a bigger match. Maybe that's where they're going with Park and Rec, taking money that they would have spent out of the general fund for recreation and then dipping it into the bucket. I'm assuming maybe that's what they're thinking.
Oh, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, this recreation is for new fields and things. It's for infrastructure, not for the actual recreation department. And that's been a long, it's been
Right.
years.
No,
It's been,
Correct, it cannot be used for maintenance.
right.
Yeah. Or turf fields. We found that one out too. All right, so I'll put together the percentages we did last year and then we can just think about it and we'll tell them that we'll just do it in February, which is, I think is fine.
Okay.
Locations. Make your pitches. And then one thing, Linda, the $5,000 that Joe Cataldo was putting toward the 12 Robinson Road consultant. Don't you think that should come through as a blended fund amount into CP?
No, wait, no, that's, if I understand what you're asking, we have a budget, we're paying our consultant for 12 Robinson a certain amount, which is 4,000 something. And Joe Cataldo's kicking in another 5,000 and he's paying her himself. I don't know that it has nothing to do with CPC, I don't think.
I thought I saw an entry. There's an entry in the town budget that says 12 Robinson Road something. And it was $5,000. And I kind of assumed that was his.
I don't know, because I haven't seen that. Should I talk to the select board about that?
Yeah, or the accountant, treasurer, finance person. I don't
So
know.
you tell me where you saw it again. You saw 5,000.
Yeah,
12
and
Robinson Road.
it said 12 Robinson Roads, and I can't remember that. I could look it up. It was in the open finance. It was an entry.
So is money in or money?
It was money going in.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll talk to somebody about that. Or you can if you want, but I don't know if it has any. So you're saying that should go through CPC if it's if it's going into the town fund?
The
It
blended
would make
fund.
sense if you could run it through CPC, then eventually there's a match
Yeah,
on it, so. And we've been trying to push that as a concept that
Right.
fair money comes in, goes through here just to get the match.
right.
And he started work this week on
Yeah, I
that.
saw this
Did he?
excavator on the truck.
They had the big tree truck, but they had
Yeah,
some guys in there.
Yeah,
The poor tree.
I know.
He's not standing a chance.
Well, the trees that are coming down are in the back.
That big oak though on the side.
Well, that's a catalpa.
Was it a catalpa?
Yeah, it's this giant catalpa. He's keeping that, I think.
Is he?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought when we were on the site walk, I thought it was a big oak.
It's huge,
Yeah.
but it's a catalpa.
He was going to cut it down, but as far as I know, he's keeping it now.
He moved the
Oh,
driveway
good.
to the other side.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because the driveway wasn't gonna
Right.
fit through.
Right.
Huh. All right, yeah, Linda, let's check on that.
Yeah.
Because if it does, we need to vote that in, and we have to vote that into town meeting. we have to vote to accept the funds into
Okay.
CPA, and then town meeting has to vote, so we will have to know that before the next. Let's talk to Steve about it too. Maybe that's the way to go. Okay, we'll look at that. Anything else on money, budgets? Anyone has? Anything else? Minutes, I had 2 months to do minutes and I'm sorry I didn't do them.
It happens.
Oh, I'm so mad at myself, but, we'll have a bunch for next month. I should do better with a shorter timeline. And then future meeting, we'll meet on the third Wednesday of February, the 21st.
21st, yep.
And then March 20th, I think we just said it was. And if we have to, we'll try to, like I say, it's so hard to get us all together, but even maybe if we Zoom a meeting or something, if we have to squeeze some things in, but we might be okay because the warrant does close later, so we might work out. Anything else before we? Yep.
I move that we adjourn.
Second,
All right, Bartlett,
yes.
Yeah.
Andrew,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn's a yes, Linda,
Yes.
do you want to adjourn?